Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 106 of the Runnin the Paint podcast. I'm Miles here with Nick and Joey. Guys, how are you doing today?
Feeling good, feeling great. Glad to be back with you guys.
What's up, fellas? How's everybody feeling? No Jackson today, unfortunately, but we got the three-man weave running strong.
Three-man weave going strong. Excited for this episode. We're at, it feels like the last couple months have been so busy for us. We're only doing like one podcast a week with the basketball season going on for me and Nick doing a lot of work and Joey working behind the bars a little bit as well. But soon we'll be back. We'll be back with 2 times a week just in time for the postseason. We've got a lot to talk about here today. We're at the third quarter mark of the season. As crazy as it is to say, every team is playing around the 61st game of the season as we're recording. So we're going to do a little bit of a progress check later on in the episode on every single team in the league. But first, let's start off with PERTL. Let's see if we can keep our solid streak going. Joey, who should our first player be?
Because he really impressed me the other day against the Cavs, and he went off again as we were recording this. Anthony Simons.
Anthony Simons for the Blazing
Portland
Blazers.
Trailblazers.
Hey, that's a pretty good guess.
Not bad.
Yes.
Number 2 or 3.
Number 2 or number 3 for a 6'4" or 6'5" guard. That's not in the Northwest Division, but is in the Western Conference. Ooh.
Is that Shea? No, because the age is way older, and
Yeah,
Shea's
I
probably
think Shea
around
might
that
be
age.
6'6". Or no, that
Maybe.
would have worked then.
De'Aaron Fox.
He doesn't wear number 1 anymore or 2 anymore.
Oh
Who?
yeah, he did. De'Aaron Fox bumped his number up.
Oh, yeah, he's
I
number
think he's
4.
double digits now.
Yeah, isn't he like 11?
No, he's number 4, De'Aaron Fox.
Oh, he's
Oh.
number 4?
He went from 5 to 4.
Oh,
Oh,
never mind.
Let's see.
Yikes.
Let's go through a bunch of these teams.
I'm trying to think.
Let's pick an older
the
guy.
Suns, Bradley Beal.
Bradley Beal would fit.
Bradley
No, he
Beal.
might be exactly 6'3".
I think he's 6'4" listed.
Let's try it.
You want to try Bradley Beal?
I
Let's
think
try
we'll
it.
try it.
Then we could get our division down. Bradley Beal. Oh, it is!
Oh, let's go, Nick!
Ignore me. Wow.
Ah!
Bradley Beal in 2. That was clutch.
Bro, let's go, Nick!
That is what I'm talking about, man. That's a great way to start off the episode.
Yeah, baby.
Not good.
Let's not talk about.
Let's
not talk about Phoenix
this
again.
season with PERTL.
Yeah.
We've been on a roll.
Oh yeah. No, we have very much improved.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now let's get into some of the news across the league from the last week or so. Let's start off going back to Friday night, a primetime matchup on ESPN. 2 of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, these 2 teams in the Eastern Conference, a potential Eastern Conference Finals preview between the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics, a game that was regarded as one of the marquee matchups of the season at this point. And we had ourselves a terrific game by the end of it. Although it didn't start out that way. Boston led 25-3, 5 minutes in, absolutely dominating. But then the Cavs came back, made this a game, and they ended up pulling away with the victory and knocking off the Boston Celtics on the road. Nick, where do you want to start off with this Cavs-Celtics game from Friday?
I think it's hilarious that my whole feed is just Jason Tatum after the 25-3, just yelling at the crowd, and then the score at the final right next to it. TD the Garden was absolutely rocking, like 25-3. It was insane to watch that spurt to open up the game. But you had a feeling like the Cavs would at least make it a game, and Boston got complacent with a lot of ISO-heavy basketball, and the Cavs came back pretty quickly. Like, they were back in the game early on.
Yeah, the way that Boston started out the game up 25-3, making every shot, defending well, the Cavs missing. I mean, that Donovan Mitchell even said it right after the game. It was like that first 5-minute stretch, everything went wrong. Like, you can't really go much worse than that. So let's just pick it up from there. And that's exactly what the Cavs did, especially when some of their second unit pieces came in with Ty Jerome and DeAndre Hunter, who have been on fire over the last month or so. Joey, what stood out to you from this game?
I've been, like what you said, I've been loving those Virginia Cavaliers play some basketball together again in Ty Jerome and DeAndre Hunter. It's been incredible. DeAndre Hunter, 8-0 as a Cavalier, undefeated. I
Not
love
bad.
it. But what really stuck out for me is, like, obviously everyone's real excited about this being the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, everyone's already marking it down. Everyone's already making plans. I know I am, because it's going to be crazy. It's going to be must-watch basketball. However, we got to get to that point first. But the benches is what stuck out to me, because obviously they were without Porzingis and Drew Holiday, and we were without not Garland.
Everyone was playing, actually.
Everyone was playing. Oh, it was the Blazers game, the next game
Yes.
that a couple of the guys sat out. My bad. But either way, like, our bench is what brought us back into the game. Like you were starting to allude to, they really took it onto their shoulders. DeAndre Hunter, Ty Jerome, Strus was a hot hand for a while. It's all those other guys with Boston, with Porzingis and Holiday out, outside of Brown and Tatum, who went absolutely ballistic in that game. Like, neither of them could miss. It was ridiculous to watch. But nobody else really stepped up, and that's really why they blew the lead and blew that game. Like, everyone wants to say, "Oh, Tatum's not clutch." I'm like, hey, I love making fun of Tatum as much as the next guy, but it's really not his fault they lost that game. He did everything he could.
Yeah, I mean, it was unbelievable. I mean, well, first, just the offensive shot making on both sides from the star players was fantastic. I mean, every one of the star players really stepped up in, little spurts or whatever. But to me, like, Tatum and Brown having two of the greatest games that they've ever had together, actually scoring wise, they combined for 83 points, the most they've ever combined for. On efficient shooting as well. I'm like, all right, look, at halftime, I'm like, man, he's like 30 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists at halftime. And Brown's going crazy too. I feel like, it doesn't matter how well you're playing if you're the opposing team. If they're playing that well, you're probably not going to beat them. But Cleveland did, because, like you said, Joe, they did a great job of guarding all the other players. Derek White got going a little bit in the third quarter from 3-point range, but overall, I mean, the Celtics played a lot of heavy target ball, trying to get Garland or Jerome or Merrill when he was in onto Brown or Tatum. And that kind of got the Celtics out of how they really play their best basketball, which is when they're moving the ball and, getting 3-point shots off of penetration.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, to me, this game, the Cavs did a great job to fend off that initial spurt from, like, an unconscious Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. And they did it with defense. I mean, Boston only scored 42 points in the second half, which is crazy.
It's huge.
But not only, like, defense, I think this game, like, big time came down to an absence of KP and Drew Holiday, because in the second quarter, when the Cavs were making, like, their run to come back and really bring the game to a tie and take the lead, Dean Wade hit 2 big threes. DeAndre Hunter hit a big 3 to bring them from, like, down 11 to within single digits. And then, Derek White, hit some big shots during that time too, but he was 4 of 10 and their next leading scorer with only 16 points. So they just didn't have, a whole lot of juice. I think especially down the stretch when those guys get tired from carrying, like Tatum had 30 in the first half.
Yeah, Tatum and Brown combined for the 83 points, as I said, but they also took 61 shots.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They took 61 of the 89 shots, and only 6 Celtic players actually shot the ball. in that game, and their bench really couldn't give them a whole lot. Like when taking a look at the stats, from this game afterwards, and you could even tell this watching the game, besides Tatum and Brown's scoring numbers, the thing that stood out was the plus minus numbers on both sides, specifically from the Celtics bench against the Cavalier bench, where for Boston, their two main guys that played, Cornet and Pritchard, who are normally really good, pieces for them, they were awful. They looked unplayable, honestly. Pritchard was a minus 36. Cornet was a minus 26. And all the Cavalier reserves besides Isaac Okoro had a double-digit plus minus, including Jerome, who was a plus 34. So there are a lot of things that I'm very intrigued with if this is a potential playoff matchup, like whether or not Kenny Atkinson will change his starting lineup, because that is one thing to take notice of. They started awful in the first quarter, down 25-3. And in the third quarter, they also started off rough. It was like a 10-point game at halftime. And the Celtics extended the lead up to 17 with that starting unit on the floor, because there's Garland, Mitchell, and Strus as your, back three players. And, Cleveland was just better when they had Hunter, Wade, Okoro, Jerome in the game to play defense. So I'm very interested to see what happens if that is a playoff matchup. I mean, this would just be such a fun matchup to watch for sure.
Everyone's hope. I don't know one NBA fan that's rooting against seeing this in the playoffs in favor of anything else outside of maybe their team. But
yeah,
but like realistically, if you're just a true NBA fan, this is the place to watch. I would say, like, even though it is just a regular season game, that is kind of a concerning thing to see out of the Celtics, especially being the defending champion. Like, especially when it comes down to the benches. I know the role play, like when it get to the playoffs, it's going to cut down to like an 8-man rotation at most. But like, even if they do that, they're going to get blown out of the water by the Cavs bench. And that would be very concerning if I was a Celtics fan.
Yeah, well, I'm interested to hear what you guys think about this. So going into this game, I personally felt that this game was more important to Cleveland than Boston going in. But that's what I thought going in. But after those first 5 minutes, it seemed like the Celtics were like, we're here too. Like we're here to make sure there's a reason we're still the reigning champs. There's a reason that regardless of, the Cavs being the number one seed, the Celtics will be the favorite going into a series or, to come out of the Eastern Conference. Nick, what did you think? Did you think that this game mattered more for either particular team going in?
I mean, like I already mentioned, the fact that Boston had two of their top four guys out really is a huge deal. But I mean, they were going for the win. Like, these guys all played almost 40 minutes and he only played 7 guys. So they were going for the win the whole time. It was just didn't have enough there. And that is somewhat concerning. Yeah. But at the same time, once you go down to that 8-man rotation, it's like those guys, Hauser, Pritchard, and
Cornet.
Yeah, like those are their guys.
Or maybe he starts. Like, you never. I mean, they have just such versatility there. Joe, you kind of alluded to it before with the Celtics. I mean, we talked about the Celtics blowing the 20-plus point lead. It seems like we talk about this with Boston we could talk about it every single season on how they have some games where they just blow big leads, and obviously that's because of the 3-point shooting. When you live by the 3, you die by the 3. Not even just game to game, but sometime quarter to quarter. Mm-hmm. And we saw that even happen after this game on Sunday afternoon when Boston played against Denver. They looked great. They were up 20 points. Denver ended up making it a game, but the Celtics still won. Is this something that we should be worrying about with the Celtics heading into the playoffs? This worry of maybe them blowing some leads to these higher talented teams.
Yeah, as if I was a fan of anybody else, like obviously I'm not a Boston fan, but if from a Boston fan's perspective, I would be pretty comfortable because even though I'm not, I have a high respect for that franchise and that team as a whole. Very well constructed, well organized, well led, and I think once they hit the playoffs, they're going to lock in. It's going to be 48 minutes total this time. Regular season, I know we all say it, but it's kind of the truth where you'll take maybe a couple minutes off and that's when a lot of these teams get back in the lead or come back and possibly win the game. And it's happening a lot with Boston. So if I was any other fan, you'd be like, oh, there's their weakness. If I was a Boston fan, I'd be confident because I'm assuming they're going to have Joe Mazzulla is going to have everybody locked in at the playoffs and all that kind of stuff. I think it's going to be 48 total minutes until we get to the playoffs. And maybe if we start to see it like in the first round, then I guess you can say, oh, we saw that in the regular season. Clearly they haven't learned. This is actually an issue. But until I see it, I'm not going to believe it.
Yeah, for sure. So with this game, Cleveland and Boston split the season series. It's almost the perfect split of the series. Each team wins both of the games, each winning one at home and on the other's floor. So it's almost the perfect split all 4 ways.
It's all cooking up.
What?
It's all cooking up, set up.
It's all getting set up, and we hope that it ends up being a Cavs Celtics conference finals, because that, like we talked about before, would be great for the league. That the win against Boston essentially seals, fingers crossed, that Cleveland does get the number 1 seed. They have a 7.5 game lead over Boston. So it's with about 22 games remaining or so. So you'd assume the Cavs would take the number 1 seed. Celtics have a decent lead on the New York Knicks for the number 2 seed. So it'll be interesting to see how those 2 teams will play it out. I think that win for the Cavs was huge from just a confidence standpoint, that we can win on their home floor. We can compete with these guys. Because if there's anything you could take away from that, from that game, or just all of the Celtics Cavs matchups this year, because all of them came down to the final minutes or so.
Yeah.
The Celtics, barring injury, will not just run to the finals and run through the conference like they did last year. At least you would think that a team like Cleveland has the best shot of knocking them off in the conference and making it competitive. And that's certainly going to be great to see, because the Celtics, I mean, they were 12-2 on their way to the finals, last season.
12-2. Flip that around, you get 2-12. Which is what the Bucks record was at the beginning of the year. They also haven't beaten Dame and Giannis together, So just another...
Yeah, and the Milwaukee Bucks are still tied for that number 4 seed.
They definitely won't be having as easy of a run.
No, you wouldn't expect so, and that's certainly great for the league and great for the Eastern Conference. Moving on, let's go to the Western Conference with another team that's been rising. The LA Lakers, man.
Oh boy.
We have to talk about the Lakers. Since the Luka trade over a month ago, they have been ridiculous on the defensive side of the ball mainly, which is crazy to think about considering they traded Anthony Davis for Luka and they got way better defensively. And with that, and then Luka, LeBron, and Reeves connecting on the offensive end, Lakers are all the way up to the 2nd seed in the Western Conference. Which is just incredible.
Nobody had that.
No, definitely
Shout out
not.
JJ Redick.
Yeah, incredibly impressive. They've just been locking in on all cylinders, especially the defense, because that was the last thing on earth we thought would actually get better would be the defense. That just I don't see how that came about, but I'm glad it is, because they are incredibly fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm excited for when we'll get to our tier list, because we'll see where the Lakers end up rising on our list, because I think we'll get to that when we get to it. But Lakers have certainly improved.
Throw it up there real quick.
Let's see. Yeah, we'll get to it in a little bit. Oh, they were an outside shot. For a second, I thought they were playing for pride. But we'll get to the full.
Maybe on my tier list they were.
Yeah, but LA has put themselves in great position, going forward here. And also the other teams in the Western Conference that were around them have kind of taken a little bit of a step back. Like the Lakers, obviously, they beat Denver. The Grizzlies have been a little on and off. They've lost a couple of close games, and Houston's taken a little bit of a step back. Yeah. So it's allowed the Lakers to jump up to this 2nd spot in the Western Conference. I guess with 20 plus games remaining, is this something that is sustainable for the Lakers? Do you guys think that they can be the number 2 seed going into the Western Conference, or will that lack of size, of center play, eventually come back to bite them?
Well, let's see. I mean, they won 6 of 7 going into the break, and they've won 6 of 7 coming out. Taking a look at their upcoming schedule, I mean, they're at home for a little while. They don't really have a huge road trip. They got to play at Denver still. That could be a loss. I mean, they go at Indy, at Chicago, at Memphis, but that's like the biggest thing they got. They got one more at the end of the year. Okay, so it's at OKC, at OKC, at
final
Dallas.
5-game stretch of the season that will be huge. Because, like you said, like you were about to say, Nick, the final 5 games they play at Oklahoma City for 2 straight games, which is just brutal. But that's a great, that could be a potential conference finals matchup that we get at the beginning of April. So at OKC twice, at Dallas. That might be Luka's return to – that'll be Luka's return to Dallas, third to last game of the regular season. Then at home against Houston, and then the final game is on the road at Portland, a team that's been playing great as of late and may potentially try to get that final spot in the play-in. So that they're going to have to take care of business in these next few games. I'm excited for the games later on this week. This Thursday, they play the Knicks at home. And then the Saturday primetime ABC game is Lakers-Celtics in Boston. So this will certainly be a big week for the Lakers.
That's going to be a loud crowd.
So, I don't know. There's 3 teams within 2 losses of them. The Rockets, the Grizzlies, and the Nuggets are all within 2 losses. So that's pretty much, I think, who's going to be competing for the 2 through 5 spots, with one of those teams not getting home court, possibly. The Warriors could still surge up. I mean, I don't really expect them or anyone else other than them to fight for a top 5 spot.
Yeah, I would agree. I think Golden State could potentially make a big push. I mean, they've been playing great with Jimmy Butler. Houston, we're recording this on Monday night. It's looking like Houston's going to get another loss. They're about to lose to Oklahoma City with Shea putting up another 50-piece.
Jeez.
He's continuing his, MVP case this season. So, it's Houston. Yeah, we'll see where Houston ends up finishing. I mean, maybe it's Houston and Golden State swapping. The Clippers, well, I guess they just lost back-to-back to the Lakers at Crypto.com Arena, so that might be tough for them.
I think that it'll be difficult to keep that 2 spot. Not saying that they can't do it because they have it now and they control their own, destiny in that, right? But I think getting a top 4 seed will be their main priority.
I tend to agree with that. They definitely can do it, and like Nick said, they're in control of their own destiny. I think they drop to possibly 3, but I think they stay in that 2 to 3 range.
It's going to be close.
They are playing
they're going to have to fight for
fantastic.
wins.
Exactly. I think what you're predicting, Miles, that final 5-game stretch is going to determine who comes 2 through 4.
I think the Lakers may need to have a lead going into those final 5 games, like a decent 1 to 2 game lead. Now, something that is interesting in that scenario, Oklahoma City and Cleveland, I guess I should have mentioned this with the Cavaliers as well, considering that they essentially have the number 1 seed locked up in the East. So how do they kind of keep the energy rolling for the final, 20 games of the season? Well, Oklahoma City is right behind them for the best record in the NBA. I mean, you got 2 historic seasons. I mean, the Cavs are 50-10 after the Portland game. OKC's about to be 50-11. Both, yeah. I mean, obviously both teams are. That just doesn't even seem fathomable that's happening.
I'm just in awe because I thought, no offense to the Cavs, I thought our ceiling was 50 games going into this year, and we're at 50 games, and it's 3 days into March.
Yeah, I think going in, I was like, all right, this is easily a 50-win team. I didn't think that this would be a team that could legitimately win 67 games. It's unbelievable. But anyways, that's off the point.
Yeah, sorry.
Oklahoma City being right behind Cleveland, I mean, home court advantage if it came down to an NBA Finals still is obviously very, very important. So those top teams are going to be pushing. But if there was a case where the Cavs go on a run, OKC maybe drops a couple games, and the Cavs end up clinching the number 1 seed before that final week, and OKC maybe starts to rest some guys themselves because they also have the number 1 seed in the West locked up. Lakers may have themselves a couple of winnable games against a Thunder team that may rest some guys going in and may not want to show their full hands in case it came down to a potential conference final. So that's a storyline to watch at the top of the conferences for sure.
What if OKC does that on purpose so then the Lakers stay the 2 seed so they're on the opposite side because maybe they don't want to play them and have them happen to drop down to maybe 4 because like Nick said, they're all really close together. Because I wouldn't want to play the Lakers before the conference final, like before the conference finals. LeBron in the playoffs is scary.
I think the Thunder, though, the Thunder would be the team. Like, I feel the Lakers at some point will have to get punished for not having a starting caliber center. I feel like, okay, if it's Oklahoma City in the Western Conference or Boston or Cleveland, the Lakers are not going to beat all of those teams. I don't think. But you might be right. They may want to hold off the Lakers until then. I feel like the way it's seeded right now is kind of how the Thunder would want it, where they would play Memphis in round 2.
Yep.
And then the Lakers and Nuggets have to battle it out in round 2, and whoever wins that plays, OKC. But yeah, that's just going to be a lot of fun. I mean, there's so many different storylines. Like the Cavs with a 7.5 game lead in the Eastern Conference, and Oklahoma City with let's see here. After this game, they're going to have an 11 game lead on the Lakers in the Western Conference. But since they're still battling for overall home court in the whole entire playoffs, that could have an effect on everyone else. But with your guys' point, I looked this up earlier today at the remaining strengths of schedules for teams throughout the league. So here are the 5 easiest and 5 hardest schedules remaining. And the Lakers have the 3rd hardest schedule left in the season. Phoenix has the hardest, which is a disaster. I mean, that's another story we could talk about. But then it goes Sacramento, the Lakers, Denver, and Milwaukee. So the top 4 hardest schedules remaining reside in the West and then Milwaukee. Easiest schedules, you've got the Raptors, the Celtics, Minnesota, Washington, and Atlanta. But yeah, I mean, in the Western Conference, it honestly may come down to who has an easier schedule or what resting opportunities like for OKC, could, mean for the Lakers.
I just want to say, man, Nick, we were wrong about dogging Nick about his Suns prediction at the beginning of the year. They might be on the outside of the play-in.
And that would be worse, right? Did you have it?
Yeah, I had him in the play-in. I had the Rockets out.
Well, I mean, there are all things, but that by far, the Phoenix thing, yeah, dude. I mean, that's another thing we can talk about. We could go right into that news story where it came out, I believe this week it was reported by, I think, Brian Windhorst that the Suns are going to be open to trading Kevin Durant this offseason. What do you guys think about this? That
KD to Minnesota.
KD to Cleveland.
No.
No, we got the Andre Hunter. We're good. Good for them. The experiment, the KD, Devin Booker, Bradley Beal experiment clearly did not work out. So you got to blow it up and you got to start somewhere. And you're going to get the most for KD sooner than later. So he better be the first one off the market. You better not lose Devin Booker. He better be a Sun for life.
That's what you would hope, because that would just be a perfect story. But
yeah,
it really is crazy. I mean, Kevin Durant, because there were reports they were looking to trade him to Golden State at the deadline, but he declined it. Durant vetoed the trade, and now the Suns are 4 games below 500, and we'll have it's a tough. You wouldn't expect them to make the postseason with just how the whole season has gone, but Who knows? Maybe that's the perfect way for this team. It makes no sense. They lose up some easy games, and then when it gets the hardest, they go crazy. But it's just crazy. It really is unbelievable. We'll probably talk about that. We'll talk about that a lot more when it comes to this offseason if the Suns end up on the outside looking in, and how, in my personal opinion, I wish they just stayed patient because there was a world where heading into, let's see, so after they had traded for Kevin Durant midway through the 2023 season, they lose to Denver in the second round. Then that's when they trade for Bradley Beal and then Nurkic later on in the offseason. And there was a world where they could have had a starting five of Chris Paul, so that's who they traded for Beal, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Tamani Kamara, he was a Suns draft pick and then traded to Portland, and DeAndre Ayton at the 5, which could have still worked. It could have still worked. It's just crazy how much has changed with that team.
It's
not a good look.
That's a better lineup than they have now.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it.
Oh.
Some other storylines from around the league. I guess we're sticking with the bad news Bears a little bit. Go back to the Eastern Conference. Philadelphia 76ers season that was full of championship dreams at the beginning. The nightmares continue. Joel Embiid is going to be out for the remainder of the season, was announced about a week ago, to spend some full time to try to figure out other options to rehab and recover from his knee injury that he's been dealing with all season long. Nick, you and I talked about the possibility of this on the last episode. Are you happy that the Sixers are ruling Embiid out for the year?
No. I mean, I'm not happy that Embiid's not playing.
Well, yeah.
I think it's the right thing to do, though, if that's what you're asking.
That is. I worded that wrong.
Yeah. In that case, I'm happy.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. They kind of needed to do it. And I know
They
you
need
said
to control their draft pick, like we talked about. Their draft pick is the important part.
True. Yeah, you said bad news, but if Goglin was here, this is like the best news possible. He doesn't have to hear about Joel Embiid all the rest of the year.
If they only played 17 games, there wasn't much to hear.
Right about that.
Let's see. What did Embiid? Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. I mean, Embiid, he finishes 19 games this season. Showed glimpses at times, but, it looked like he was injured, the whole time. Definitely think you think about last season, how much has changed since just a year ago when he had that meniscus injury. He was having an unbelievable year. He was the runaway for MVP before injuring the meniscus last year. Maybe comes back early-ish, to play in the playoffs. They lose to the Knicks. Then plays in the Olympics, doesn't look the best, and it still plays this season, doesn't look the same.
Still made a good impact in the Olympics.
He did make a solid impact in the Olympics at times. I guess I'm glad that he's going to have a full, basically 7 months to kind of recover and figure out whatever the heck is going on, so that Philadelphia can hopefully make a run or something and go for it next year, because it's not, this year has just been a complete disaster. Besides Quentin Grimes recently, he's been great for Philadelphia since the trade. But yeah, Joey, you have any thoughts on Joel Embiid and the Sixers?
Not really. We can make fun of him all day long, but to your point, you said it in our Pick'em chat. It really is a shame to see a man with such talent and who's been at the top of basketball for the last couple of years, and injuries, something he probably can't help. Like, there's Goglin probably says he's just made of glass and that's his fault, but like realistically, he can't control a lot of what happens to him. So I just feel bad for him. And no matter who you're a fan of, basketball is not better without Joel Embiid not playing.
No,
I still think he's kind of a dirty player.
Yeah, he is a bit of a dirty player, but there's there's humor with the he loves to joke around a little bit. He's great on the court. Like you said, Joe, this is an all-time great player that may not be looked at like in 20 years for younger fans. They may not look back on Joel Embiid like, oh, this was an all-time dominant big Because we'll see what happens. I mean, he is an MVP that has never made the conference finals, and has dealt with a lot of major injuries. So when his career is over, he may not be looked back on as a super great player, which is unfortunate. And that's why I hope he can come back.
I think there's a long story hopefully left to be written, so we'll see.
I agree. EMBIID is already 30, but we've seen there are a lot of players that are still playing great, later on in their career. We'll see if that can be the case with EMBIID after, all these injuries, because he is a very injury-prone player, so that could play a part.
Mm-hmm.
And then some other sad news, but I guess also kind of, it's the right thing to do kind of news with Greg Popovich announced that he's not going to return this season to kind of focus on his health. He hasn't really been there a whole lot this season there for the Spurs. It's just good to hear that he's doing better now with his health, and prayers up to Coach Pop.
Yeah, he is my favorite coach of all time, and man, it's a shame because we might not have known it, but it might have been his last time. You never know what's going to go through his head. He's got a long rest of the year to figure out if he wants to come back, and if I was him, I probably wouldn't.
Well, I think
that's a scary,
scary
health.
His intention is to return.
Yeah, I know what he wants, but he probably would have wanted to come back already by this season.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, that definitely could be possible. Especially
I hate thinking it, but
it's I hate that too. But I mean, it is certainly possible. We may have seen Coach Pop coach's final game already. Hopefully, it's not the case. It's just been a rough month or so, or I guess week, with the Wemby blood clot news, and then this with Coach Pop. So hopefully, both those guys get better, and we'll have them back for the beginning of next season.
Yup, agreed.
All right, now let's get into our third quarter tier list check. We already took a little quick look at it already, but it's still crazy. We're 75% done with the regular season. Only another month and a half to go until we get to the postseason. Already can't wait for that. I think it's going to be legendary this year. But let's take a look at this tier list. So this tier list, before you guys go crazy watching, this is not a tier list for right now. This is a tier list that Jackson, Nick, and I made back at the mid-season point, back in the middle of January, with a bunch of these tiers that Coach Cove created for us. And these were all based on
we got to read them off.
Teams.
What is it?
What?
Let's read them off.
All right, Nick, you go through them. You go through them.
All right, we got the inner circle. Should I read the names too?
Or yeah, just do the names of the tiers.
Okay. Inner circle, if the stars align, outside shot, dark horse finals contender, playing for pride, play-in material, and capture the flag for obvious reasons.
Correct. All of them, pretty self-explanatory, but a whole lot has changed since the midway point of the season. This was before the Luka Doncic Anthony Davis trade. I guess this was before Jimmy Butler got traded to the Warriors. This is before De'Aaron Fox got traded to San Antonio, Zach LaVine to the Kings. Think about all the stuff that has changed since we made this tier list.
Look at the Pistons. Look at the play-in material for the Pistons.
The play-in material. So there's a lot that we got to change in this. So how do you guys want to go about this? Do we want to go by each tier?
Yeah, let's start at the top.
Yeah.
All right, let's start at the top. So the inner circle, at the midseason point, we had OKC, Boston, Cleveland, and Dallas. Now, Dallas Mavericks, unfortunately, look, they make the Luka Doncic trade. Nick, you and I were both understood the Luka trade a little bit as far as the win now. I'm still a fan of the roster. The problem is everyone's getting hurt. Karma is coming back on Nico Harrison and the Dallas Mavericks. And for that reason, it's not happening.
And for that reason, I am out.
I'm out on them this season with everything that's happened. But Kyrie Irving just got injured tonight. Hopefully he's okay. They listed it as a left knee sprain. He banged knees with Jonas Valanciunas, but I mean, so I don't even know. Where do we put the Dallas Mavericks because they're so injured?
Well,
This is-
here's the thing. I mean, you have to make the case that if they get in the play-in and everybody comes back, that they could get there.
Please tell me you're not actually considering keeping them in the inner circle if they're healthy.
No, not
Oh my god.
where we need to move them to.
Okay. Dallas Mavericks, where do they go?
If they're fully healthy, I guess dark horse conference final contender or outside shot.
If they're
But
fully healthy,
But that's if they're fully healthy. They still got to get through the West in the playoffs.
Joey didn't like the trade.
I
Joey
still
thinks they
don't
got
like the
worse.
trade. I still don't like the roster.
Me-
They're so
I
injury
believe-
prone, but
I believe they got better after the trade.
and you guys would be wrong, and that's okay. Everyone's wrong every now and then.
Well, no, we don't know. We don't know. From the 3 quarters that we saw, they looked like an inner circle team, if we're being
Absolutely. Miles, where do you want them down to?
Look, I honestly think that they could be inner circle next year, but I am convinced that karma is not allowing them to do anything this season. So I'm willing to put them. I agree. It's outside shot or dark horse.
Well, I have to go outside shot then. I'll have to say outside shot.
Yeah,
Because you're talking about karma. That's literally the definition
That's the
of
thing.
if
They're
the
just
stars
weird.
align. If
Because
you're talking about
when
karma.
fully healthy, they have the potential, I think, to, beat some teams in the playoffs. I don't think that they're gonna. I don't think that.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, even if they become fully healthy by the playoffs, what's going to happen when they have only played maybe a game and a half together total before going into the playoffs? It's going to be a mess.
They roll everybody.
No
For the record,
chemistry,
I would
no
keep
nothing.
them up one more.
Oh, all right.
Okay, then we meet in the middle, outside shot. I
That's
think
fair.
That's right where it is. Because I think, Joe, you'd go dark horse. Nick's going if the stars align. I'll go outside shot. We'll go.
Yeah,
right.
that's fair. That's right in the middle.
Okay. Sticking with inner circle, like I said, we have the Thunder, the Celtics, and the Cavaliers. Are there any teams that should be added to the top contending teams?
I hate saying this.
Don't even.
He's doing it.
The Lakers should be in the inner circle.
End the episode right now. Joey's
What?
off.
I hate the Lakers. You know that. But I'm sorry. They are literally playing like a perfect team right now.
No.
Like we said, when that trade
lost
happened,
to the Jazz.
Every team has a bad loss.
Every team has a bad loss.
Oh my! Listen to yourself. I can't believe this.
I'm sorry, but their defense is if their defense was still garbage, but they were winning games just because their offense was really good, then I would say if the stars align.
Miles just said they're not beating all 3 of those teams.
Yeah, I guess that would mean. Do you think they could beat the Thunder, the Celtics, or the Cavaliers in a best-of-7 series? I guess mainly the Thunder.
They're right where they should be. In the outside shot.
I can do if the stars align because that's if LeBron is still just cracked out LeBron in the playoffs like he has been for the last 20 years.
Let's check his playoff stats.
All right.
But again, he's 40 now. So again, that might not be. So if the stars align and he is like that, then yeah, I think they could take OKC possibly in 7.
Dude, they have the second best defense in the last 8 games since Luka's been playing. That's absurd.
8 games. Who have they played?
You were just about to crown the Mavericks, and they played 3 quarters of a game together. I don't want to hear it.
I mean, look, they've played the Clippers twice. That's a playoff team. Minnesota, that's got I don't think they had either of their bigs in that game. But
Minnesota can't score.
Their best win was the Denver game in Denver.
Then if you're gonna do that, then they have to be if stars. If you're not gonna put them in the inner circle, that is fine. I can deal with the Lakers and the stars align because they would be on the same tier as Denver.
Again, so wait, Nick, where would you have them? Would you still have them an outside shot?
Yes.
Okay. Because they have 3 very good playoff performers, Luka and LeBron, amazing. Reeves has been great in the playoffs. I'll put them in if the stars align. Because, heck, if the stars align, I'm saying, I think OKC would be a nightmare matchup because of Chet and Hartenstein, and the Lakers are playing Jackson Hayes and Trey Jemison at the 5. That's who they're relying on. But, heck, we hate injuries. If the Thunder get an injury to one of the bigs, I mean, LeBron and Luka could – I mean, you never know. I think LeBron and Luka, just them two alone, I got to give them their respect. I'm not the biggest fan of doing this, but I got to give them some respect.
Well, Joey said inner circle. I said outside shot, so he's in the middle.
No, I'm cool with the stars align.
Yeah. You said inner circle.
Okay, fine.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, if they made it against Boston or Cleveland, I don't think Lakers win either of those series. So
the quote was, "Do we add anybody?" And you said, "I hate to say it."
Okay.
And then you said it.
All right, fine. You're right.
That is true.
Yeah, you're right.
All right, so if the stars align, at the time of that video, so now we have the Lakers in there, along with Denver, Memphis, Milwaukee, and the New York Knicks. What do you guys think?
Memphis.
You take Memphis down. All right.
Agreed.
I do at least.
I'm actually with Nick on that one.
So Memphis to outside shot.
Yeah.
Any particular reason why you guys want to move Memphis down? I'm just curious.
Just
like Ja's been inconsistent, and like it kind of feels like Jaren, and it doesn't feel like it's his team as much as it is Jaren and Baines this year, and I don't think that's a good thing.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't know. They just haven't been. They've been really good, but it's been like, I think, a little too quiet, like where they've been in the standings. I feel like a lot of these other teams are making way more noise, like for the way they play and stuff. Like Grizzlies are just kind of beating the teams they should, losing to the teams.
They shouldn't be higher than the Rockets.
Yeah, they really shouldn't. They're on the same tier as the Rockets, I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
We'll put them in outside shot. Anything else with the if the stars align? I'll throw it out. Are any of you guys interested in moving the New York Knicks potentially down because of their play against the top teams in the NBA?
No, because if the stars align and Mitchell Robinson comes back, that team is different.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Mitchell Robinson actually played. I think he's played his first game.
Oh, did he?
Against Memphis on Friday, actually. He's played 2 games since then, has played like 12, 13 minutes.
He's not fully back. You know what I mean.
Oh, for sure. I don't know I just don't know. I mean, I would keep the Knicks if the stars align as well. I think that their problems are way too much to then be like, all right, Mitchell Robinson is going to fix it. Like,
fair. Yeah.
I think there's a lot to them also, like, because I think ideally they would want Cat at the 4 with Mitchell Robinson, and I don't know which wing they would bring off the bench or whatever. That would be an adjustment. One of those wings coming off the bench, playing Cat back at the 4. Like, no matter how much you want to admit it, like that. If there's anything to harp on with maybe Oklahoma City against Boston or Cleveland, if it came down to it, it's that Chet and Hartenstein have not played together as long as some of these other front courts, and it does take a while to get that figured out. We're even seeing it with the Thunder. Some of the lineups with those two guys haven't been the best yet. That'll get a lot better as we move along. But Knicks, still, if the stars align, Milwaukee, Denver, you want to keep them there as well?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, moving on to outside shot. Right now we've got Houston, Orlando, Memphis, and Dallas. We just moved Dallas and Memphis down and the Lakers up. I'll automatically Orlando down. I do not believe in the Orlando Magic this season.
I agree. I think
Sadly.
I don't know maybe if you put them that far down, but I think you definitely should bring Golden State up, especially with the way they've been playing with Butler.
Let's slow down.
Or
Talking Magic. We'll get to the Warriors.
all right.
I agree with you on both fronts.
Okay.
But I think the Magic should move down.
Would you swap Orlando for Golden State?
Yes.
Yes, that's what I was trying to say. I'm like,
okay.
that's why I mentioned the Warriors. I'm like, I think we should honestly just flip flop them.
Let's just do it. Because I would agree. Orlando, unfortunately, I mean, they just do not have the offense. They do not have the offense, and that's just not it at all. Like I
don't think they can beat a first round team, the Bucks, the Knicks, the Cavs, or the Celtics.
Nope.
No, because they can't shoot. I mean, the shooting has somehow gotten worse than last year. Last year, that was the big thing, is that they couldn't, shoot, and they needed to improve on that front in order to be better. And they have not. They have gotten worse. Like when I'm watching, there was one time I think I may have been watching an Orlando Magic game, and you know how on the ticker they show like the leading stat players for each category. Leading 3-point percentage shooter is Corey Joseph at 36.4%, and he's not even in the rotation.
What's the average this year? Is it around like that 37%?
What, the league average from three?
Yeah. Because if their leading 3-point shooter is under the average,
that's not good.
League average this season. All right, this is actually interesting. I'll tell you guys all these. League average for field goal percentage is 46.5. 3-point percentage is 35.8. So 36% is league average from three. An average free throw is 78.1%. In case you guys were ever wondering. But yeah, so league average is 37%. The team as a whole is shooting 30% from three.
That's so bad.
The best rotation player from three is Cole Anthony at 34%. Everyone else is at 30, except Tristan Da Silva. This is like Banchero, Wagner, KCP, and Suggs are all either 30 or 31% from three. That's just not going to cut it in today's NBA. Like,
that's so bad.
And it's unfortunate because they have the second best defense in the league. And usually defense wins you games, and they are still, in the play-in or whatever. But they have the second best defense, third worst offense.
Yeah.
And somehow it's gotten worse with, those stars coming back, Franz and Paolo. Paolo's been playing a bit better. Franz has honestly been better than him this year. Something that should be switched, hopefully going into next season. But, Orlando playing for pride right now because hopefully they could just find some offensive hot streak, at the end of it.
Agreed.
Okay, but outside shots. So now Houston, Golden State, Memphis, Dallas. Let's see. Honestly, man.
I'm good with that.
I kind of agree with that.
All right, we'll keep it. All right, so now we're in the Dark Horse Conference Finals. Contenders. There's a lot of stuff we're going to have to do with this. Let's automatically move Atlanta and Phoenix down somewhere.
Playing material?
Hold on. I disagree.
Oh.
I think they should both be right there. I would move the Clippers down.
You'd move the Clippers down over the Hawks or the Suns?
I don't think the Clippers can beat two of the teams ahead of them in the West.
Clippers.
I think the Hawks have a chance at beating the Bucks or the Knicks. I think the Pacers have a chance at beating the Bucks or the Knicks. And I think the Wolves and the Suns have a chance at beating.
What's their record right now?
Clippers.
Because right now they're in the play-in. Or the Suns outside the play-in.
Yeah, no,
I
it's
guess
true.
that's the thing. Atlanta is still in the play-in.
But it's only a 3-quarter check-in.
True.
They still have 20-some games.
That's true.
That
and they
is
do have an
true.
easy schedule. Miles pulled it up earlier. The Hawks do have one of the easier schedules of the rest of the year.
Yeah. Oh, man. I still think Clippers are a dark horse conference finals contender because seeding could get them
Yeah,
there.
I mean, that's fair.
Because, I mean, honestly, like, I think Clippers versus the Memphis Grizzlies would be a tough first-round series to pick. I'd probably go Memphis, but the Clippers could beat the Grizzlies. Like, I think the Clippers could win a series if, things broke right for them. I just don't. Maybe they'll. I don't know. I don't know about the Hawks because I don't even know if they'll make it.
That's my thing. I'm like, that's why I'm thinking they're in the play because that's where they are.
Yeah,
right
I kind of forgot Jalen Johnson got injured.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah, because he's done. I mean, they're
okay. We can move them down
because I mean the additions for them have been playing pretty well. Like if you see, I mean, Karis LeVert and George Niang playing very well as Atlanta Hawks and Trae Young, continuing, to move the ball like he has been, and Onyeka Okongwu in the starting lineup. But I still don't.
But they're not the same team that beat the Celtics twice and the Cavs.
No, it's not.
Or even the Knicks when they beat the Knicks as well. So do they go to? I think they're just playing material.
Yeah.
I think it honestly may come down to an Orlando versus Atlanta final play-in game for the 8th seed, and that's who makes it. That might be what happens.
Nice.
So hold on. So what about the Phoenix Suns? Do we move the Phoenix Suns down? We were just talking about them before. They've got the hardest schedule left. They're already in the 11th spot, 5 games below 500. What do we do with the Phoenix Suns? Already?
Do they even have their first round pick?
I believe that is in Houston's hands. I think that's the reason. Oh, no, they do have their own first round. Wait. I think it might be a swap with Houston.
Okay, because I was going to say, if they do have their first round, maybe you put them all the way down to capture the flag. However, I would say play-in material. I would say drop them down to play-in.
I don't know, Miles. The thing you said where, like, I do kind of feel like there's a team that plays best with their back up against the wall.
Back against the wall, you think? Oh, man.
That's what I'm thinking about.
We're not going to argue that talent-wise, that's the Suns team, if they make it, can be a dark horse conference final contender. However, they got to try to make the play-in. They're still they're 11th. They got the hardest schedule. Like theoretically, on paper, they still can be in this tier, but reality, they still just got to try to get up a couple spots.
Not to mention, they're also playing probably their worst basketball and disconnected as heck.
Yeah.
Right. They're 4-11 in their last 15. They just got blitzed by the Timberwolves on Sunday night at home. Did you guys see that Anthony Edwards, the bounce alley-oop late in the game, Bradley Beal, like they
just pushed them
to them. They've lost at Toronto I mean, this is their upcoming stretch. This is how hard the schedule is. We'll look at their next few games. They play versus the Clippers tonight as this is coming out. Then 5 of their next 6 games are on the road. Denver, Dallas, Memphis, Houston, home against Sacramento, at the Lakers.
Oh, my, that is brutal.
And then they have a 5-game homestand after that. The first 2 are their most winnable games, the Raptors and the Bulls. Then it's, this is a gauntlet to end the season. We'll just go through the rest of the schedule. The final 12 games, Cleveland, Milwaukee, Boston to end the homestand, at Minnesota, home against Houston, then at Milwaukee, at Boston, at New York as a 3-game road trip. Golden State, OKC, San Antonio, Sacramento. They're playing the teams that they're battling against, for the spot. They play the Kings a bunch and the Spurs and the Timberwolves. So they are playing the teams that they are battling against. They also play at Dallas. So it kind of is in their hands. I mean, if they can win those games, then obviously they have a much better chance of making it. I just don't.
I'm definitely okay with moving them down.
I'm not a believer of that.
They're so disconnected right now. There are a lot of reports. I mean, they just put Kevin Durant on the market, and there was a report about Devin Booker and Mike Budenholzer being on the market. Bud might get fired. They might have another coach fired after 1 year. I think playing material.
Yeah.
All right.
Pacers, Timberwolves, Kings. Are the Sacramento Kings a dark horse conference or the Timberwolves? Are either of those teams dark horse conference finals contenders?
I'm all right with leaving the Wolves
I'm
there.
cool with the Wolves. As much as I love my Kings, I don't think they should be there.
I think they should bump down one.
Yeah.
Kings playing for pride. Okay. In my opinion, I honestly also might move the Timberwolves down one, but we'll keep them there. We'll keep them there. I think they've been way too inconsistent this year.
Yeah,
and so reliant. They've been so reliant on Anthony Edwards and not really getting much, offense from
But
other
they play
players.
really good defense, and Julius Randle's still out.
True.
Yeah, it's true. They're very, very true. He's coming back, in a little bit. He may have come back in the last couple of games. Okay. So dark horse conference final contender, we got the Clippers, the Pacers, and the Timberwolves. Playing for pride the next year, Miami, Philadelphia, Orlando, Sacramento.
Philly's all the way down.
Philly's down to the bottom now.
Philly should be capture the flag at this point. I
think Miami's where they're supposed to be.
I think Miami's probably where they're supposed to be.
I mean they could move up one, but it'd be really, really tinted rose-colored glasses.
Yeah, I don't think so. Okay, so now with playing material. All right. Detroit basketball.
Get them up there.
Let's move these boys up, man. They have been playing some great basketball. That's another thing we could also talk about in the news.
I'm not letting you guys move them up 2 spots.
Dude.
Playing for pride?
One.
Playing for pride?
Correct.
Dude, Nick. Okay, all right.
But Nick, honestly, they're on the same tier, I think, as Indiana.
Because here's the deal. They're about to win tonight. They're about to beat the Jazz tonight. So they're about to be 35-27, which is that any higher than
Who's their second scorer to win a 7-game series against the Bucks or the Knicks?
I mean, that's a very good point. Malik Beasley and Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway should not be the second leading scorers on a team. But the fact that they could be a home court team in the first round, which puts them in decent position. I mean, obviously, in a second round series, they're probably not going to beat Cleveland. They may not even get out of a first round series. I'm hoping we get a Pacers-Pistons first round. Whatever matchup the Pacers get in for the first round, whether it's Milwaukee or Detroit, there's some, backstory, rivalries, whatever with either of those matchups. So that would be great.
Let's get another Malice at the Palace.
we could very well get
More Giannis basketball, who gets the ball situation.
That's right.
So do you want to just move them up one then?
Yes.
Playing for pride.
I feel like they're doing more than that, though.
I feel like they are doing more than just playing.
They're
for
not.
Pride.
They're playing for pride for next year. That's their whole season. Their whole season has been.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah, I guess not. I mean, I don't think they're winning a series.
They didn't think that coming into this year.
Well, no, of course not. But things
they've been playing for pride the whole year. Which is where we should have had them at the halfway point.
I think playing material is probably. I mean, playing material was a step up from a huge step up from capture the flag at the midway point. I mean, they've won 8 straight games before this last week stretch. Playing for pride, I guess, is right. It just doesn't feel right having them in the same tier as literally the rest of these teams. But they've been. But I guess that is right. If, at this point, I guess we could have them like this.
They're I'm glad you put them first because they are the better of. They're the first of all those teams. But
yeah, I wanted to put them first, and we could reorder it. Okay, so playing
this tier is good.
Right now, we have the Bulls, the Spurs, the Hawks, and the Suns. I think Spurs are probably now in capture the flag at this point with the Wemby news, and they've been losing a little bit.
Yeah, it's true.
So Spurs are in capture the flag, and then in capture the flag, the Nets, the Sixers, the Hornets, the Pelicans, the Blazers, Raptors, Jazz, Wizards, and Spurs. I want to move the Blazers up to playing material.
I was just going to make that argument as well. I'm looking at the standings, and they're only a half a game behind the Suns. So it's not like if we have the Suns there, then the Blazers are kind of fighting for it too.
And
that would be a great experience for those young guys.
Oh, yeah, man. I guess their only issue is like they're 4 games behind the 10th spot. Is that too much for them to make up with the inexperience? Because the reason why we have the Suns in playing material is because they do have Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. We do have the respect for them.
Yeah.
They're younger guys leading the Blazers. I'm actually curious about their upcoming schedule. I mean, they just railed off a couple. I mean, they had that game in Cleveland where they played great, but ended up blowing the lead and losing. But
they won as we recorded this.
Shout out to the Blazers, man. We haven't talked about them a whole lot this year on the podcast. But
you talk about them every episode.
No, we don't.
You do.
No, and maybe these last like 2-3 episodes because they've been playing well.
You love the Blazers.
This team is going to be good.
They were your favorite team coming into the year.
I think Jackson and I did have them both as dark horse playing material teams, and they're kind of playing.
They are kind of playing like it. Are we cool to move them up, maybe? Or do you think that?
What do we think? What do you got? Nick?
Yeah, move them up.
Move the Blazers to playing material. Yeah, so the Blazers, this is a gauntlet of a road trip that they're currently on. They're on a 7-game road trip right now that they just beat Philadelphia. The final 2 games are at Boston and at OKC. Playing them back-to-back with Cleveland, Boston, and OKC in a week on the road that's not fun at all. But I mean, if they can stay close, that'd be great. But honestly, after they have that road trip, they have a 7-game homestand. They play a lot of teams they may not really be playing for much. So there is a world where they could maybe make things interesting. So again, shout out to the Blazers. All right, so there's our tier. There's our tier list. Do we want to kind of order these up a little bit before we get out of here?
I don't know. I feel like that'd be difficult.
Yeah, that might be more. Well, Joey, what do you think?
I don't know. I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I'm happy
as long as Detroit's the number 1 for playing for Pride, and then outside of that, everyone as long as they're in the right tier. Because I think this is a pretty good list.
It's not bad. Honestly, I know Jackson will hate this. I want to move the Rockets down a little bit. I think Golden State should be number 1 in outside shot because of the experience.
Okay.
Because you think if they keep on winning and in a playoff series, they'll have Steph, Jimmy, and Draymond in a starting 5 with all that experience. It's pretty good.
That's a lot of finals experience.
A lot of finals experience. I think they could potentially be a team that if we do this right before the playoffs start, I think the Warriors could be a team that are in if the stars align. But there's still a long way to go before we get to that point. So let us know in the comments down below your thoughts. Anything else on this list that you guys would want to change?
Put the Cavs on.
Cavs one.
Put the Cavs on.
Heck, 50-10. They're the top team in the NBA.
Let's do it, baby.
We'll have them first for now. We'll see what obviously happens going forward. But there's a look. Let us know in the comments down below your thoughts on the list. You guys got anything else before we get out of here?
No. Have a great day.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. We'll be back in a little while to talk about some other storylines throughout the league. But for now, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy, leave a like, subscribe for more NBA content. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and we will catch you in the next one.
Peace.
Peace.